Welcome to Antelope Valley News. We bring you the latest local events, stories, and community highlights right here in the AV.
Here's a look at some of the stories making headlines this week. First, a controversial new provision in California's Assembly Bill 130 is drawing attention because critics say it could act as a new housing-related vehicle mileage tax. The provision uses what's called a vehicle miles traveled, or VMT metric, which measures how much driving a housing development is expected to generate. If a proposed housing project is expected to create what the state defines as a significant transportation impact, developers could be required to pay mitigation fees or fund housing projects in lower driving areas. Supporters say the policy is meant to reduce transportation emissions and encourage development closer to transit and job centers. But critics argue it could increase the cost of building new homes, especially in suburban and ex-suburban communities like the Antelope Valley, where longer commutes are common. The long-term impact will depend on how the state calculates the fees and how local governments choose to implement them. Next, some California Assembly members are reconsidering parts of the state's climate policy after previously supporting the legislation. 15 Assembly members recently sent a letter to the California Air Resources Board asking regulators to reconsider proposed updates to the state's Cap and Invest climate program, which regulates emissions from fuels, gas, and electricity. Those same lawmakers had voted last year to reauthorize the program and direct regulators to update its rules. But now, they warn that some of the proposed changes could destabilize California's energy market and drive prices even higher, and we don't want that. According to estimates cited in the discussion, the changes could potentially raise gasoline prices by more than $1 per gallon by 2030, though the final impact will depend on how the rules are implemented. The Assembly members say California should continue leading on climate policy, but they also caution that the transition must consider infrastructure readiness, energy reliability, and the financial impact on families. Regulators are expected to consider the proposed updates later this year. And a reminder for Lancaster residents, the April 14 city election will be conducted as a vote by mail election. Ballots will be mailed directly to registered voters, so keep an eye on your mailbox and make sure your voter registration information is up to date. And finally, a reminder for soccer fans in the Antelope Valley. The Legends exhibition match featuring players from Chivas and Cruz Azul is coming to the region, bringing former stars from both clubs back onto the field for a special event. If you missed our coverage last week, tickets are still available and organizers expect fans from across Southern California to attend.
This week in the Antelope Valley, we're looking at a steady warm-up with plenty of sunshine and temperatures climbing each day. We start off mild in the low 80s, but by the middle of the week, we'll be pushing into the low 90s. So it'll definitely start to feel a lot more like spring heading into summer. For Saturday, expect a low of 56 and a high of 81. It'll be a little more breezy, so even though it stays warm, it still might feel slightly cooler at times. Looking ahead to Monday, temperatures continue to rise with a low of 56 and a high of 85. Overall, it should feel pretty close to the actual temperatures, making for a warm and comfortable start of the new week. Then by Thursday, we're looking at the hottest day of the stretch. The low will be around 60 degrees with a high reaching 93. It should feel even hotter with conditions making it feel closer to 96 degrees. So overall, get ready for a sunny and warming week across the valley with the hottest weather arriving by Wednesday and Thursday. Stay hydrated, dress lightly, and enjoy the sunshine.
For many people in the Antelope Valley, the conversation around crime can feel confusing. According to law enforcement, crime rates are going down. Many residents, however, say it is just the opposite, that streets are becoming less safe. So which is it? This week, we're taking a closer look at the numbers and the reality behind them. According to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, crime across the county saw significant improvements in 2025. Officials report that Part 1 crimes, which include violent and property crimes, dropped more than 12% from the previous year. The department also says burglaries and vehicle theft saw noticeable declines, and overall crime dropped compared to the previous year. From a data standpoint, that's a major improvement, but those numbers don't always tell the whole story. A closer look at crime trends in the Antelope Valley suggests something more complex may be happening, and it may explain why residents still feel uneasy. One of the key issues is how crime is measured and reported. Law enforcement typically tracks what are called reported crimes, incidents that are officially documented in police reports. But many smaller crimes, like petty theft, vandalism, or repeat shoplifting, may never make it into those reports. In some cases, residents or businesses simply stop reporting incidents if they feel nothing will happen. That gap between reported crime and lived experience can create a very different perception of safety. If incidents go unreported, or suspects aren't prosecuted, or when crimes are categorized differently, official numbers can improve even while people feel disorder increasing around them. In other words, both things can be true at the same time. Law enforcement may be accurately reporting that major crimes are declining, while residents are also accurately describing more day-to-day problems in their neighborhoods. The conversation around crime is rarely simple. Stats measure trends, but community trust is built on everyday experiences, what people see, hear, and feel in their neighborhoods. And in the Antelope Valley, that conversation is clearly still evolving. For now, officials say they will continue focusing on crime reduction and enforcement strategies across the Antelope Valley. And politicians, of course, will boast of their success in curbing the crime problem. But the real question remains, are the numbers telling the full story? For many residents in the Antelope Valley, that answer is absolutely not.
And that's our show for this week. Thank you for joining us as we continue bringing you the stories that matter here in the Antelope Valley. For more local news, community updates, and upcoming events, be sure to visit antelopevalleynews.com. And if you'd like to support what we're building, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss a story from right here in our community. I'm Beth Samuel. And from all of us here at Antelope Valley News, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.